This right here is one untested, banged up 50 Aussie dollar PC that we picked up. Now, this is the process of, I guess today we're gonna go through the process of making a banger into something that can play games. So first of all, we've got the power supply here. I mean, the whole thing looks like it's been sitting in a garage for probably a year or even more. So what we're gonna do is go through piece by piece before we even try to boot it up, because I'm guessing if someone sold it for 50 bucks, something doesn't work. So what I'm gonna do is go through each part, starting with the power supply, which we've pulled out now, and then we will go through the graphics card, and then we'll go through the single stick of RAM, the motherboard, and the CPU. But I got a good feeling. I mean, i3s, especially 4th gen and upwards, it's almost impossible to blow these things up if they're not overclockable. And you're probably thinking, how do I know this? Well, I've actually tried before. But onto that, let's start piecing this thing out and seeing what the problem is.
If you want to cop yourself a legit Windows 10 Pro OEM license, then today's video sponsor SCD Keys has you covered. For as little as 15 bucks, using the coupon code TYC, you can get yourself one of these keys instantly delivered, and they've even got PayPal. Links in description below.
And our power supply, it ended up being faulty. It wouldn't even give out a signal at all, which is already not looking like it's good news for this build. So we do have a power supply replacement here. This is a real budget power supply that you usually find within budget cases. It says 685 watts. This thing is not even 200 watts, looking at the 12 volt rail there. However, this is what the i3 and also the GTX 750 in ways was designed for. It was designed for low powered builds. You could just shove a GTX 750 into practically any PC and you'd then have decent gaming performance. Though the single stick of 8 gigabytes of RAM, like, I mean, an i3, 2 cores, 4 threads is already pushing it in 2020 for low frame rates. So I'm going to at least change over this 8 gigabyte stick to 2 4 gigabyte sticks. But what we're also going to do now is take this motherboard out and the graphics card and just start checking everything to see what actually works inside this build, as well as give it a bit of a clean since it is looking a bit filthy. So we've now booted this PC up and everything is looking good so far. The GTX 750 is giving out a signal, the 8 gigabytes of RAM's being recognized, and also the i3-4160 is working too, as well as the motherboard. So there's 4 pieces that is working. Now, I did get asked in a previous video, it was in the flip up challenge video, where we're going from $100 to a high-end gaming PC. I got asked, why don't I test the parts individually before putting the whole PC together? And so simply the reason for this is if you're building up a few PCs every day, or even if you're just building up one PC a day, if you're saving a lot of time, that leaves a lot of time open for, especially if there's a crucial time in the market where everything's just selling, you want to be flipping more PCs. So putting it together as fast as possible and testing out to make sure everything works fine, you've got to find the efficiency curve there, or the best balance. And so that's why if everything works from the get-go, I'll work backwards pretty much all the time. Except you saw in the intro today where we started with the power supply first. That's because the whole build just wasn't booting up at all. So it's generally either the motherboard or the power supply. And since the whole build was filthy, I just tested the power supply, it was gone. Then after that, I'm testing all the 4 parts at once. And that's just to save time. If everything's working here, then I don't have to go through every part individually, and I've saved myself a lot of time, especially if we get to Windows and then we just run heaven overnight before we sell the PC. It's stress tested, it's working absolutely fine. Low settings is gonna stress the CPU a bit, as well as the GPU. RAM's gonna be getting thrown in there as well, dynamic load. So it's good for everything, essentially, if we do that test. That's what I've been finding lately, is just the low settings, heaven benchmark, high settings. It actually finds out a lot of faults very quickly. You can also run Call of Duty Warzone if you want to, just find a spot in the campaign. But that, of course, that game takes such a long time to install, especially if you don't have a copy ready, and it is a big game to download. Anyhow, from here on in, we are going to put the build back together. I'm actually going to change over to 2 4GB sticks right now, just test everything boots up fine. Then we're going to put the build back together and start testing it out to see how well this little i3-4160 and GTX 750 holds up. And the i3 system is now complete for a grand total of 65 Aussie dollars. Now, we installed Windows 10 Home because I saw a Windows 7 Home sticker on the build to begin with. So I kind of put 2 and 2 together and figured, hey, they probably upgraded their Windows 7 Home to Windows 10 Home. And that's exactly what happened. So Windows 10 Home was already activated on this motherboard, which saves us bouncing a key and wasting a key of Windows 10 Pro on this particular build. But another thing is too, you're probably wondering, it's late at night and this was all happening during the day. And I was on our Discord for a lot of today, just talking to all the folks there. We've got a really cool community going on. But originally there's a big announcement actually, and that is Science Studios' Greg Salazar, he just messaged me and decided he just didn't want to be part of the Discord anymore. And it was there was no bad reasons or anything like that. He just didn't have the time to be part of the Discord anymore. So he left, and now we've kind of we used to be Science Yes City, but now we've just reloaded it to Tech Yes City. And so if you guys, if there's anything that's happened and you've been sort of like, we had to sort of fresh the whole Discord. So if you got kicked or anything like that, then I'm gonna put a Discord invite link in the description and also in the pinned comment for you guys to see. So if you want to rejoin, if you got accidentally booted or anything like that, just rejoin. And yeah, it's going to be called pretty much, it's going to be the focus of it. A lot of people basically over time, maybe Greg left because the whole Discord just became talking about deals, used deals, metas, and everything around used versus new, price performance and stuff like that. So might have just not been Greg's kettle of fish, I don't know. But anyway, it is what it is. So Greg and I, of course, there's no hard feelings or anything like that. We're still gonna do live streams, we're still really good friends. There's nothing like that at all. So don't even go there if you're thinking that, because Greg and I are absolutely, we're pretty cool, don't worry. Anyhow, onto this PC. Everything worked out fine with the whole build itself. The build is running smoothly, everything's working fine. Though we are on a 1080p monitor at the moment, and of course we're downloading Call of Duty, which just so happens to have yet another update, which is 50 gigabytes, which is bigger than a whole lot of games out there for their initial size. But you know, good old Call of Duty with its massive game size. We're going to download this. After we do that, we're going to switch over to this budget little combo right here, where we've got just a banger keyboard, mouse, and monitor, which I got all these 3 components for free because with a little 17-inch monitor, not bad, and just a free keyboard and mouse that I've cleaned up, gave some Tech Yes loving. And the GTX 750, that is a 1 gigabyte edition, I believe. So it's not really geared up towards 1080p gaming. And so I figured with the i3 and the GTX 750, I just want to see if it can play Call of Duty Warzone on a little monitor like this at a lower resolution, and also if and how well it runs Valorant on this little monitor too, because I want to put together a little budget setup and then see what we can come up with. But of course, we just got to wait for this game to finish now.
So starting off with this gaming PC experience, the monitor, it's extremely weird. A 5:4 aspect ratio. So most monitors will have a 16:9 aspect ratio nowadays. This one, it's pretty much as close to a square as you can get. If there's any monitors that are LCD and are a 1:1 ratio, I would love to know what they are. But in the meantime, this monitor's resolution is so weird that it's actually not natively supported in Valorant, nor is it supported in Call of Duty Warzone. So I actually had to drop the resolution down slightly to the 960p from 1024p, and that did the job. So that being said, it does work. You just got to change it to another slightly lower resolution. And that being said, it is a 75 Hertz panel, so it was running really smoothly. Now, we're playing a team deathmatch here. I really am enjoying this. It's just like constant action. And I guess if you're playing a Twitch studio, your eyes will just be twitching all the time. So one good thing you'll notice with the FPS is that it's actually pretty smooth. Like, this is giving out a decent experience. The 0.1% lows, there was some noticeable stuttering from time to time. And most of the time, however, it didn't happen a whole lot. But in some clutch situations, it can happen. So I guess that's the downside to using an i3 in 2020, even on an easy to play game like Valorant. But for what it's worth, you can still get good on this setup. That's one thing you'll notice, is that you can still get frags, you can still play pretty smooth on this game with the i3. Now another thing is too, right in the top left hand corner, we're going with the smaller monitor because the VRAM requirement wouldn't be anywhere near what it would be on a 1080p 16:9 monitor. So I guess that's the benefit of using a smaller monitor, is it's not going to stress your graphics card as opposed to bigger and better monitors than this one. Now moving over to Call of Duty Warzone, this was a different story. For starters, the aspect ratio was weird. This is the best I could get it, where it looks closer to a 3:4 in this mode, where you had to change it to window mode, because I think the maximum supported 16:10 or something in this game. So we got away with sort of this weird resolution in windowed mode, did the trick. But the FPS, you'll notice here, it's only going to 39 average. And then the 1% lows are actually pretty decent compared to the average FPS. It's just the 0.1% lows are dipping really low. And that's one thing you'll notice about i3s. In a lot of the titles you run these i3s through, well, even if you're putting 16 gigabytes of RAM on them, they're going to have stuttering, and you're going to notice that with the 0.1% low of 7, and in Valorant under 10 as well. You will notice that if you are gaming competitively. If you're not gaming competitively though, I mean, look, 40 FPS average, it'll do the job. I mean, you'll be able to still get some frags. It just won't be anywhere near as good as even a 60 FPS experience, or in this case, since it's a 75 Hertz monitor, a 75 FPS experience. But that being said, the GTX 750, it just doesn't really have the grunt to push out frames in this game. The one thing you'll notice is the VRAM is going up to pretty much 2 gigabytes, and it's pegged at 2 gigabytes, even at this lower resolution. The GPU is pegged at 99%. The CPU is pretty much pegged near 100% too a lot of the time. So basically all these components in this build are just getting maxed out in Call of Duty Warzone, which is good for I guess this resolution. And this is even on the lowest settings here, so we can't drop anything else to get the FPS higher pretty much unless we lower the render resolution. But even then, since the CPU is getting pretty much pegged at higher percentages, it's not going to up our FPS much. We might be able to pull an extra 5, if we're lucky, 10 FPS out of this rig. So that's pretty much the limit for this poor little i3. The last two things to talk about with this rig is the temperatures. I'm really happy with the CPU and the GPU. You can see here they're pretty much under 60 degrees at all times. Then we've got the power consumption, which from the wall is going about 120 watts in Warzone. So that's a really good thing in this case, because this power supply is just a banger. It's going to probably have around maybe a 70% efficiency if we're lucky. So this whole build is literally using probably around 90 watts direct draw. So under 100 watts, it's absolutely fine. There's really nothing to worry about. Let's get over now to a conclusion.
And with all that gaming out of the way, we are now here at the conclusion with the i3. In particular, this one we've got here, the 4160. We got it for a really good price, a local deal. We took the gamble. There could have been more parts that were faulty with it, but at 50 Aussie dollars, for me, it was a no-brainer. We even got lucky with the GPU that it was a 2 gigabyte GTX 750, not a 1 gigabyte, because I think the 2 gigabyte could barely just play Warzone, even on this weird 5:4 aspect ratio. But the 1 gigabyte, I would say Warzone would just be out of the question. Now, Valorant, that ran really well, even despite the 0.1% lows being a little bit worrisome. And I think this in particular, 0.1% lows, is the main problem I have with 2 cores in 2020. Even easy to play games like Valorant don't run, like they run well, and you can be pretty good on this CPU in Valorant, but sometimes there's gonna be that little stutter, and that could cost you the game, which could make you a lot more frustrated. And in that respect, I would much rather you even go for something like a first gen Xeon X3450, which is a lot better in my opinion, and it's gonna give you a smooth experience. The i3s, I mean, look, in this case, this setup is gonna be a budget Valorant, CSGO, even Fortnite gaming PC, but it's still got a little bit to be desired. I'd much rather an i5 in there, and that in turn helps with the whole gaming experience. Another thing is too, if you want to go out and buy it now, which a lot of people do complain about in some of my videos, they're like, look dude, this is a local deal, it's not replicable. And what I say with deal hunting is you got to be patient. You always have to be patient for the good deals, and you got to be on point. You got to know when to quickly snap up a deal if you know it's a good price. So at 50 Aussie dollars, the deal was solid, but if you go on eBay and you check out the i3 systems, even in the US dollar terms, they're at the very least going to set you back $75, and then you've still got to put a graphics card in there. So you're going to be going over 100 USD for an i3. I'd much rather you try and find the i5 variant, where that tends to be just priced a little bit more in these system packages, but it'll give you a better experience overall. But anyway, the negatives out of the way. This PC right here today, it could still game. The i3, it can still give us a playable experience. I could still get some frags in Valorant. And one thing about Valorant was, I haven't played it that much, but I enjoyed the team deathmatch a lot more than the standard multiplayer. So hopefully they can work on the team deathmatch a bit more and maybe do like kill streaks and stuff like that. Because I used to play Black Ops 2 and I used to really like team deathmatch in that. So hopefully they can add that to Valorant. That'd be pretty cool. And then I'd probably play it a bit more. But other than that, I guess the i3 is the gateway PC. Like, I'd call this still capable of being a gateway PC, in that I've heard some people out there, they play on these old laptops and they're getting like 15 FPS, unplayable experiences. And with that FPS, you would honestly not even know if you're good at the game or not. This PC here, even on Warzone getting like 40 FPS, you'd still be able to figure out, I guess, if you were good at PC gaming and if it was for you, and whether you want to spend more money on the actual hobby itself, as opposed to the really bad laptop, which is probably going to turn you off PC gaming to begin with. So something like this will do the job, and I guess it's a great little entry PC if you can pick it up cheap enough. Another thing is too, I would definitely recommend getting a mouse pad. That was the biggest thing that peeved me off this video, and that was I just had no mouse pad. So I had to put a mouse pad down to play because I was really losing it. Having no audio as well, you definitely want to have some audio if you're playing games, even a cheap pair of headphones. But that being said, I'd rather you get a, if you're going to go with a cheap pair of headphones, I always say this, lately anyway, go get the KPH30Is. Even though they might be a little bit more expensive than some budget headphones out there, they're going to be a keeper for sure. Even if you come into a higher end PC, you'll probably find yourself keeping these headphones. And with that aside, if you guys enjoyed today's video, then you know what to do. Hit that like button. Also, let us know in the comments section below what you think of today's build, today's PC. Love reading your thoughts and opinions, as always, just like this question of the day here, which comes from Peter Jaina. And they ask, what X58 motherboard do you recommend that has triple channel support? And for X58 motherboards, I've been saying this in the past, my go-to for a good experience on X58 has always been Asus motherboards. I find like back in that era, they got everything right in terms of platform stability, in terms of overclocking and holding overclocks, and in terms of also longevity of the boards. So they're like a shining star on X58, Asus boards. Even on X79, they did some of the best work there too. Then after that, the other board guys started to catch up a lot. And so X58, definitely go with an Asus board if you can. That's just my personal experience going through a heap of different X58 boards here at my studio, and also when I was back in Japan back in the day. Hope that answers that question. And if you stayed this far and you're enjoying that Tech Guest content, then don't forget to grab that mouse, and with no mouse pad too. Make sure you just take the mouse pad up and do it on a rough surface. Go down, click that subscribe button, ring that bell, and I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. There's a message. It's like someone's probably like, yo, Brian, I'm hungry for that i3 PC. I know you haven't even put it up for sale yet, but I need it in my life, so I'm gonna go flip it now. I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.